Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. As you know, I'm passionate about this topic, and I know that it helps to get the books in people's hands.
Yeah. Okay, so we're all here. Can you
Show me the people. Hello. Good afternoon, Oxford.
Hi.
So Ben, I've already introduced you, and if you want to give us just an update on what things you're doing now, all the exciting stuff, and yeah, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this. Sami Adnan has been an energetic organizer to put this together, and I'm quite intrigued by what's happening. And very pleased to see that you're taking on these topics in a serious way. For me, my background was computer interaction, and but I, moved into this topic of human-centered AI, which the creation of the book was my COVID project, and so that kept me going. And since then, for 2 years, I've been running this HcAI Google group, and so I'm about to post my 120th message today. And if you wish to join it, you're welcome to do that. It's 3,600 people who are on that list, so there are interesting things. I'm the only one who posts, so you won't be overwhelmed. I used to be once a week, but I've slowed down to doing it occasionally when something interesting comes up. So that's the story. So I'm here today to, talk to you, learn from you also, and have your questions and challenges. I do have a prepared talk, and we can do the prepared talk. But I will pause for questions along the way. Maybe I should just start. Let's say, are there any questions? From what you've been doing, are there things that you'd like to ask me?
Are there any questions? Anything about the 8 design, the golden rules of?
Yes. The golden rules were really a surprising effect. They've become very widely known, used, and joked about, parodies on YouTube and so on, but they stem from our work in trying to, shorten the very long lists of design guidelines that people put forward. And even the simplest starting one, which is strive for consistency, turned out to be a really valuable effect. I was influential in Microsoft's move in the mid-90s to actually make a consistent layout of dialog boxes, just okay, cancel, the size of the buttons, the colors, their positions, all those things were not standardized. And my students' studies had shown that when you have that kind of inconsistency, size, color, or position, that you slow users down 5 or 10%. If you change the terminology from search to find to query to retrieve, it's about 25% slowdown in people's performance. So even that basic rule, which may seem so obvious to you, became an important influence, and it became something that people have used widely. Now, sometimes it's a challenge to use it because what does consistency mean? Sometimes there are conflicting principles of consistency. But if starting out in a design project, you decide about the terminology, and I usually ask designers to make a list of the verbs and the list of the nouns they will use in their applications. And just keeping the word choices consistent and simplified makes a huge difference in performance. And then the obvious things like size, position, color, and all those issues become very important. So that's just one of the 8, and the others have equally interesting stories and have impacts. But to me, it's satisfying that they've remained popular. And my whimsical calling them golden rules gave them a little bit of magic and a little charm. So, all right. If seeing no questions, I'll go to my talk, and let me start the slideshow. And then I need to share my screen. Where did I go here now? Where are we? There we are. And which is my share screen? Present now, I guess it is on this system, right? And this is where am I? I have too many windows open. Let's see. Don't see it in this list. Oh, I see. Entire screen. There it is. It was on the other tab. Do you see it?
Not yet. Did we get disconnected? Oh no. Oh yeah, there he is.
Hello.
Oh, Ben, hello. We lost you for a moment.
I know. I started my sharing and boom, it crashed. Well, I'm not sure where that came from, but I'm used to such things. Don't worry, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. I see. I can start start my talk again, and okay, I'm back here. Shall I dare to try it again?
Yep, let's go for it.
All right, let's try this again. And share. All right. Do you see the screen?
Yes, now it's working.
All right. Oh, yes, the joys and pleasures. Okay. Let's see, I'm getting some messages here, but it looks okay. Okay, so I'm pleased to represent the University of Maryland, and have a long history there. As you know, I'm retired, but as someone quipped, you're not retired, you're just rewired. And so I'm moving on to doing the things I want to do. And I'm always pleased to wave the flag of the Human-Computer Interaction Lab, now on its 41st year and its 9th director. And the website has lots of information that may be useful to you. I hope you'll take a look. And it's a very good group that's strong these days on human-centered AI and accessibility and universal usability, community issues, etc. So you may enjoy that. The topic is human-centered AI, and the basic question is, what do we mean by human-centered AI? Well, I like to say that it's a set of processes by which you do development of AI systems, and it invokes the ideas of human-computer interaction, user experience design, but it goes further. And so that's the idea. It results, there's a set of guidelines about doing it, and the goal is always to amplify, augment, empower, and enhance people. So that little mantra is something you'll hear me say, but it focuses on enabling people to do more than they used to do. Not about replacing them, not about magical machines. Apple knows this very well. In their iPhone 15 release presentation, they mention the words "you" more than 100 times. It's not about what the machine can do, it's about what you can do. And that's the goal of design, is never to highlight the machine, to push the machine into the background and give users the sense of control and mastery, self-efficacy, creativity, and the capacity to do what they want to do. Okay, so that's where the topic goes. This talk has 3 parts. The focus, I'll start with the design metaphors. We'll talk about generative AI, which is the current issue. If there's time, we'll go on to governance structures. But after each of these sections, I'll pause and give you a chance to ask questions. I know it's difficult to ask questions, but I like questions. So see what you can do for me. Okay, so the design metaphors are really central to our thinking. And we come from a history where the design metaphors emphasized the computer. There was computer-centered AI. And so the discussion was about intelligent agents that are thinking machines, that are cognitive actors, about teammates, collaborators, and partners, autonomous actors that were independent and self-directed, and even social robots. Social robots, I think, have quite peaked actually in 2019 when 4 major companies failed. Yes, there will always be a new social robot idea. The social robot idea goes back to 1880s when Thomas Edison was making a social robot. But those have never been adopted by users. The developers think they're cool, but users are after something else. What are they after? They want superpowers to give by what I call super tools that augment, amplifies, enhances, and empowers human abilities. And they want to be able to operate remotely. This is, we'll see from medical examples as well. They want control centers. Excuse me, my phone is ringing. There, put it out. And control centers, and then what I call active appliances. So this new language requires some fresh thinking, but the shift away from these metaphors, which are quite commonly used, is the challenge. So remember, what I'm offering is still a minority position. So with your help, we'll push this forward over the next decade to change the way things will be. I have strong confidence that this will work out. My job is to make it happen in 5 or 15 years, not 50 years. That the idea of supporting people and enabling them is where the future will lie. So what does that look like? Well, my favorite superpower is the digital camera, which has lots of AI to set the color balance, the shutter, the focus, even reduce hand jitter. Yet, it's got lots of user controls, okay, that work before you take the picture. You aim the camera, you compose the image, and then you click for your decisive moment. It's your picture. You can then view it, you can edit it. After you're done with it, it's yours. You can delete it. You can share it with others easily. It's an excellent example of design. If you can make the tools you're designing to be as sweet and popular as digital cameras, you'll have been a great success. And the goal of this exercise is that digital cameras have transformed in the past 30 years the world from where photography was something that maybe 10% of the population could do a reliable job on, on a regular basis. And now I would say 90% of the people can produce a pretty good picture most of the time. And so you have this transformation, this enabling effort that by combining high degrees of automation and AI with high degrees of user control, you get both. It's not about one or the other. Certain tasks people want to be in control over, certain tasks machines do a great job, and we should use them. So it's a matter of the design to find the right balance, okay? Digital navigation is another example here I have from the White House downtown, 8 miles to the University of Maryland in College Park, just across the border in Maryland. But there are multiple routes, and the AI does a great deal of the work. It gives you choices of routes. suggests one, but it's entirely up to you whether you choose the blue route that goes through town, lots of stoplights, lots of traffic, or you take the longer route outside the city on the Beltway, Route 295, and come to College Park 1 minute faster. So these are your choices, and that's the idea. And these digital navigation tools are exceptional in that even if you deviate from the plan, it will catch up with you and guide you to your destination. So I'm a great fan of these. There are lots of little ways that AI gets done, like text search auto-completion, which has been steadily improved over time, spelling correction, grammar correction. If you look at the tools like Grammarly, you'll find it's very impressive what the combination of good user interface design with good AI can do. A more elaborate superpower is the Bloomberg terminal, which is used for financial planners and traders. And this large amount, this abundant information is presented in a spatially stable, very important, spatially stable, non-overlap strategy, so that the user arranges what they want so they can, with a glance, look at the information and then move to another window and take action. So this kind of design is so successful that more than 300,000 people spend $20,000 a year to have something like this available for their use. The idea of Bloomberg terminals for medical also are discussed, and so particularly in radiology, rather than just looking at one image, to see 24 images, 12 images of the X-ray this week, 12 images from the X-ray last week, allows the oncologist to have a better understanding of what's changed and to notice differences carefully. So abundant information is a very good idea, and spatial stability, consistency, another kind of consistency is valuable. The second idea of teleaction, action at a distance, the most common discussion is the Mars rovers, which my AI friends tell me is autonomous. It must be. It's on the surface of Mars. And indeed, it can travel on the surface, avoiding obstacles, avoiding precipices. It will adjust its antenna and its solar panels for optimum performance, and so it can perform autonomously. On the other hand, there are 80 ground controllers working for NASA who operate the Mars rover. What are they doing? Okay, they're choosing the goals for where the Mars rover will go. They're dealing, secondly, with the things that go wrong. A windstorm puts too much sand on the solar panels, or certain parts of the device no longer work as effectively. So they have to deal with those kind of failures, and failures of physical devices are common. The third, and maybe most important, is they are understanding what works and what doesn't work, and they're collecting information for the next generation of Mars rovers. And so this blend, again, this is the designer's goal, the blend of human control with automation. A medical one is the Da Vinci surgical system, which has become quite important, laparoscopic surgery, keyhole surgery, and the device is a well-designed, I think, and careful one, but the designers write on their webpage, robots don't perform surgery, okay? Your surgeon performs surgery with Da Vinci by using instruments that he or she guides via a console. So that's the idea. It's not the autonomous robot, it's the human-controlled system, okay? And yet the newspapers and the journalists distort the reality and favor the metaphor which says, surgical robots better than human robots. No, that's not true. There is no such thing as a surgical robot that works autonomously. It's always operated by a person. Control centers, a hospital manages the emergency room and allocation of resources and other materials. Again, information abundant presentations. give the operators the information they need, blend of AI making recommendations, but they are in control of what happens. Similarly, other control centers are important in large-scale systems where multiple people can share information but work independently. And the idea of information abundant displays remains important in these and many other situations. So where you have a large-scale system in a hospital or automobile systems or transit systems, this kind of blend becomes really important. The last category I call active appliances, and so every one of our home devices are now becoming AI-infused super tools, from simpler devices like Google's Nest or iRobot's Roomba. I bought one, while I was writing the book, and we've continued to use it here 4 years later, and it's impressive but flawed. And their user interface design stems from the older idea. It was originally just 3 buttons and 2 lights, and that was not a good way for users to feel in control of this device. It evolved to have an iPhone app, which gives a great deal more information, still flawed. For example, I can't, if it's coming into my office while I'm working, it's hard for me to stop and tell it when to come back. So you want to provide the sense of control for the users to operate these devices. And every washing machine and dishwasher and clothes dryer is becoming automated with more and more AI sensors and algorithms that try to reduce fuel usage or energy consumption and speed the process and deal with problems. And so we see that happening. Medical devices also, pacemakers, which used to be seen as autonomous, embedded in the chest, are now have a user control panel on iPhones, and Medtronic will collect the data from tens of thousands of these pacemakers so as to improve the algorithms to make them more effective for young people, for elders, people with different diseases, and of course, to refine the algorithms for the next generation of pacemakers. So these are ways you have to take perspectives of different time frames to think about the short-term things that happen in milliseconds or seconds that need to be automated, the things that take minutes where user control is possible, and the things that evolve over weeks maybe of a user device and possibly over years where the evolution of the device itself is your goal. And so taking a perspective with different time frames is a very powerful way to move forward in the design of these kind of devices. So I'm at the end of this section. Let me take a breath and see if you have any questions or challenges about. Let me maybe spin back to the challenging screen with the design metaphors. This image, which is in the book in a different version, went through about 25 iterations as I refined the concepts and the notions. So anything about the design metaphors?
As someone studying AI and adaptive systems, this really resonates with the work that we do.
Sorry, I'm not hearing you clearly.
This really relates with me. I'm studying AI at the moment and doing a project on intelligent systems. And to see it from this perspective is really blowing my mind right now, because I'm so deep in the weeds of the tech, I'm almost forgetting the whole purpose of what I'm doing, I think, sometimes.
Thank you. That was very kind of you. That's exactly the change of mind I'm seeking, that, this worship or devotion to intelligent agents and machines, which are really special, and the shift towards making people really special. People are really quite special on their own, especially physicians, clinicians, nurses, and so on, are really quite remarkable in their abilities, and we can help them do even better, but our job is to make them, to empower them, not to replace them. Yes, there may be disruptions as these devices become part of it, just as have been always through technology. But I feel confident that the dire warnings of widespread unemployment due to AI, which have been put out for 20 years or more, are not happening because many, many new demands arise. Yes, there is disruption, but I feel that the technology-centered approach, when designed well, can bring benefits. We have a mixed history. I was very involved in developing social media, and I would say, although we warned about the dangers and threats of social media, we didn't adequately do the right job in preventing them. And so I'm determined with AI to be much stronger in advocating. And there's a growing, circle of voices. We will share these ways. Any other questions? Or comments? Anything that you rebel against? Something that you didn't like?
Can I ask you, Ben? You say there that you don't anticipate the loss of jobs, or that hasn't happened yet. I work in law, and I can imagine that a lot of the tasks of simply trawling through contracts and the like will be something that AI could get to a point where it does it better, in the same way that looking at, say, images for radiography better. I can't quite square that idea that there won't be fewer lawyers needed, which must be.
Sure, that idea has been widely floated, but look at the evolution of the legal profession or others. I mean, medical care has increasing degrees of automation, but in the U.S., the rise in the last 25 years is from 12% to 22% of the employment force is devoted to medical care. We have increasingly high expectations. In legal work, I worked with West Publishing on developing their tools, which make the contrast between legal documents of 30, 40, 50 years ago with what's done now is extreme. The current documents or cases presented are much richer, much more well documented. And so the expectation has risen. The same way that PhD dissertations, we have a much higher expectation of what students will perform for a PhD because we give them enormous powers. And so that's what's changing. We have higher expectations. In medical care, maybe the topic you're more interested in, when I was a child, a small number of people got braces on their teeth, for example, and now most kids get braces, and what kind of care we're getting, the extended use of hip replacements, knee replacements is staggering. And so we have higher expectations. And the same thing happens in legal care, in legal action as well. Do you agree or disagree? Well,
I can see that the idea that one way it can go is that because delay is a major problem in the legal profession. So if you employ the same number of people and AI, it could reduce the time scale. I've just where there's the number of mouths to feed is not as many. The temptation will be to say, oh well, we'll keep the time frame and just reduce the number of people we need in the way that we've gone from. This is speaking from the UK, that we used to see students developing into solicitors or barristers, whereas now a lot of them stick at being paralegals. So it deflated expectations a bit.
Well, I don't know the numbers in the UK, but I know in the US the legal profession has expanded because as these tools become more available, there's more legal cases, there's more issues. People are more willing to go to court and to fight legal battles. And so there's an increased demand for lawyers. Maybe I do have numbers. For example, Amazon.com. 12 years ago, almost 12 years ago, Amazon had 125,000 employees. And at that point, Amazon bought Kiva Robotics. And the belief was that Amazon would shrink the number of employees in their fulfillment centers. Well, here we are 12 years later. There are now 1.5 million employees working for Amazon. So more than 10 times increase, even though the robotics have come in. And why does that happen? Because the robotics and their design have improved the speed, as you mentioned, of delivery. It's improved the quality of service. And so the demand has gone up, the price has gone down. And so you have this reinforcement feedback, which creates more jobs of different kinds. Yes, I'm aware not all these jobs are wonderful jobs to have, but I think that's always been true. And while there's controversy at Amazon and the fulfillment centers, whether Amazon's work practices are safe or kind, and there have been terrible things that happen, in general, people want to work for Amazon. There's a strong, set of people who are eager to work those kind of jobs. So it's the changing landscape. I would say Darren Acemoglu, MIT economist, would be the person to look to, or his colleague David Autor, Autor. Their work was inspirational to me, but we had very good exchanges, and they share my position. I think it's chapter 3 of the book talks about the issue of job displacement and disruption, and it is a concern. Okay, let's see. We're coming to the top of the hour. I would like to talk about generative AI, and if we get to governance, we'll talk about that a little bit more. So generative AI is the current lively discussion, and kicked off from a year and 4 months ago by ChatGPT from OpenAI, and it caused a sensation, and it is pretty remarkable. I hope all of you have tried it, or will soon. I've been trying Gemini, which is recently, just a couple of weeks ago, been released by Google, and there are many others out there, so you can try, and it's interesting to see what these do. So I pose the question to ChatGPT, what topic should I cover in my talk to the Oxford HcAI Bootcamp? All right, and let's see what it does. When preparing a talk for the Oxford HcAI Healthcare AI, it gets it pretty good. Bootcamp, it's essential to tailor your content to the interests and needs of the audience. Here are some suggested topics. Introduction to AI in healthcare, okay? Ethical considerations, pretty good. Challenges and opportunities in healthcare AI. Okay, identification of key challenges in the adoption. Opportunities for AI to address diagnostic accuracy, treatment personalization, healthcare resource optimization. Pretty good. Pretty specific suggestions. Case studies illustrating successful AI implementations and their impact on healthcare. And then AI techniques and algorithms, machine learning, deep learning, natural language, explanation of how these techniques are applied, discussion of the strengths, limitations, and potential biases. Pretty good. All right, onwards. Interactive demonstrations and case studies, Q&A session. Dedicate time for audience questions and discussions to address specific interests. And it closes by saying, by covering these topics, you can provide the audience of the Oxford HcAI Bootcamp with a comprehensive understanding of the current landscape challenges, opportunities in healthcare AI, as well as inspire discussion and collaboration in this rapidly evolving field. I'd say that's a pretty good answer if you look through these, okay? And I'm impressed. So there's good news here in that you have a resource where you can generate a fair body of text to deal with situations that may come up in your professional or your personal lives. In general, I found these pretty good, but flawed. Okay, so what's wrong here? What doesn't it have here? I think the easy thing to see is that these tools do give you sort of grasp into the general discussions and the most common issues in the discussions. But it's far from complete. And by the nature of machine learning, it can only deliver things that have already been discussed. So if your goal is novelty, innovation, or development of something fresh, it's harder to get that out of these tools. Okay, so you might, if you look at this list, you may recognize, maybe I should ask you, what do you see that's missing? What are the things you've been talking about or thinking about that aren't covered here? Okay, regulatory and legal framework, okay, regulatory bodies. Challenges come in, that's good. And here, it sort of puts away this topic of intellectual property and challenges to the AI system. In general, the negatives won't be here. So, but if you go on, and, I would try, yeah, go ahead, questions? Questions?
No, all good.
No? Okay. So there are other generative AI tools like, I asked Adobe Firefly, I'm getting a little echo there. Adobe Firefly, give me a picture of Ben Shneiderman speaking at Oxford. Well, it's not quite me. So things do go wrong, but Adobe Firefly is admirable for two reasons. One, they do actually license the content that they use with machine learning systems. Secondly, they have a set of full patterns. This I'm just showing you. I'm following a model of approach to show you the kind of possibilities. And there's thousands of these subcategories where you can get many different kinds of features out of them. So I think I've even got it here. So it has lots of ways of generating images to show you those things. Okay. So the question is, AI. Did any of you hear Jeff speak at Oxford? Anybody? It's a half-hour talk on YouTube, so you can find it. But he went through, this is his list of concerns about AI. It was not bad. Fake images, voice, or video that undermine democracy. There's a sub-theme there. He talks about massive processes, so he shares that view. I disagree. Massive surveillance, yes, a real threat. Lethal autonomous weapons, another concern that wasn't raised in ChatGPT's answer. Cybercrime and deliberate pandemics, also not discussed in the ChatGPT response. Discrimination and bias. So that's his list of 6 items covered in his 30-minute talk at Oxford just a few weeks ago. I went to ChatGPT and Gemini, and I said, what are the near-term risks of AI? So it's kind of interesting to compare these systems. I encourage you to do as well. So Gemini says discrimination and bias. ChatGPT says bias and fairness. Gemini says job displacement. GPT says job displacement. Gemini says privacy concerns. ChatGPT says privacy concerns. Misinformation, fake. Misinformation, fake. It's kind of interesting how the exact words reappear. Yes, there are some differences, but exact words, safety and security, risks, and ChatGPT has cybersecurity capabilities. Gemini and explainability and transparency, very important features for me. Over-reliance on AI, another topic. Potential misuse of AI for malicious purposes. Misinformation and fakes refers to that. ChatGPT gets in autonomous weapons, algorithmic accountability as other topics. But again, what these systems reflect the common discussion And I began to think, what's missing from this list? I should say, I just gave you the short form list. Each of these items came with a paragraph description. So if I were, interested, if I were coming new to the topic, it's pretty good to have these. You should use these. Check what they do, and then stop yourself and say, what's missing? Okay? So I thought, what's missing? And I had a few more. Copyright infringement, inequality, concentration of power, destruction of democracy, Jeff Hinman, mental health, and there's lots more. So again, my message is these tools are expensive and powerful. Should use them, but be careful. And that's what I said. That's maybe the takeaway from this talk. AI is powerful, so use it. AI is flawed, so be careful. You are responsible. You, the designer, you, the manager, you, the operator, you, the maintainer, you, the developer. You are responsible for what goes wrong. Responsibility is the key word that is missing from much of the discussion of AI systems. I do search. When I get a new document or discussion, I look for two things. Does it talk about responsibility for failures and near misses? And secondly, does it include the word design? If it's not talking about design, and the assumption is fully autonomous systems work on their own without a user interface, without a control panel, I'm worried. Okay? So the responsibility, the goal is, did I say it? Amplify, augment, empower, and enhance. That's where we're going. We do that by giving people a sense of self-efficacy, supporting their creativity, and supporting human-human cooperation. Other reminder, do not enter personal, private, or protected information into these systems. In these systems, you can often paste in text to get a summary, but please, especially with medical data, do not include that information. And pay attention to government regulation and the U.S. Blueprint for AI Bill of Rights was now more than a year ago, but 4 months ago, the White House's executive order on AI stipulated about 90 tasks that U.S. government agencies could take. In the UK, the Safety Summit that Richard Sunak led about 4 months ago, was another important step. And I would say the Alan Turing Institute at the British Library is another unit to deal with. Oxford's involved in these things. The Oxford Internet Institute is another good body. And there's lots of people at Oxford working on these topics. In Canada, there's lively discussions about the AI and Data Act. In the EU, the AI Act was passed a few weeks ago, and it defines unacceptable and high-risk problems and talks about ways to govern AI in better ways. The United Nations has been involved, the OECD has been active, and China's regulation of generative AI, while I haven't read it all, it's pretty impressive. It does talk about the need for limitations. Okay? So this is the summary about the current issue of large language models, and maybe I'll take a pause there. Any questions about large language models and generative AI?
I have a question, but I don't know if it's the right forum for it. I see all these regulations coming in, but I do wonder how enforceable they are and where the onus is on the creator of the algorithm or the model, of how they are transparent or not, I guess.
Thank you. That is perfectly appropriate. It sort of talks about the next section of governance structures. So one strategy is to find the ways to make it a competitive advantage for a company that follows the principles that ensure safe and viable AI. And there's lots of discussion about how to do it, but we need, I believe, in independent oversight. So external bodies like the big four accounting firms, KPMG, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, those become as they have been more or less successful in the financial world, they also become the independent oversight bodies who monitor what companies are doing. And, you know, in the US, the Securities and Exchange Commission requires every publicly traded firm, 12,000, I believe, of them, to have internal reviews as well as independent oversight from financial accounting firms. So that model is pretty promising. Another model is the insurance industry, which again, flawed, but still probably has positive impact in the building industry, transportation, and medical care. And so possibly the insurance bodies will rise to become important enforcers. And then ultimately government regulation becomes a way of doing it. You asked the real question about how do we enforce it? And yes, assessing, evaluating, and on systems is really important. But I see actually in the past 6 months, pretty strong progress in acceptance that this has to happen. In the US, the NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, put out an AI risk management framework, a way for government agencies and companies to assess the risks of any AI system. Now, we're not talking about, you know, a research system or a startup firm. We're talking about a major company. Let's say NatWest Bank is going to put in a new AI-based mortgage system. That needs to be reviewed and assessed. That needs to be more transparent and open to the public. Failures need to be reported. And so that's the way you want to build on models of existing social and socio-technical and organizational structures. I took on the job of co-chairing for the National Academies of Sciences in the US, a series of 4 workshops, which will happen in June and July, on the topic of human and organizational strategies for dealing with it. So it's socio-technical approaches that bring more than just the technical assessment, but looks for the systemic issues. Two particularly important issues for me are independent oversight, okay, and the other are the idea of incident reporting, public and open incident reporting. So in the medical world, there are incident reporting strategies. Hospitals generally have monthly reviews, and where possible, public disclosure is given about the number of errors and flaws. The airline industry is a positive example. Its high degree of safety is attributable to the idea of flight data recorders and openness, transparency, and reporting. In fact, it's gone so much so that currently Boeing, which has a remarkably good safety record, an enormous number of planes, has had problems. The MAX, you know, the 737 MAX 9 was one set of problems, but the recent ones of the side panel blowing off the airplane, no one was injured or died. I think one person was injured, but no one died. And yet that's kind of led to such extreme reactions when we have every day tens of thousands of flights on Boeing planes successfully and safely. So it's very difficult for this risk assessment because the newspapers tend to inflame, and the social media as well, inflames the kind of problems that do occur. And they will occur. We will never have a safe system. We will have safer systems, but that's a sufficient goal to work for as well. So understanding how safe the system you're building is part of your job on a continuing basis. And the goal is to increase safety over time. Okay? Tell me if I'm on the right track there, or do you want to still, question that issue?
No, I think you're right to use models of other industries because it makes it feel more possible, I suppose. I think when there's so much unknown about the trade of how things will change. But I mean, that's what other industries have been dealing with, innovation in that way for a long time. So it's the hype creating the fear, I guess, more than anything else.
Yes, I do find troubling that the newspapers, television, media, social media these days have become extremely skillful in raising fears and being, let's say, inflammatory. And so we have to understand what it is we read. I must say, it's very troubling times in the world for multiple reasons. Climate change, but issues in Ukraine, Israel, in the US of Trump, and other kind of disruptive movements around the world, I must say, are very troubling. And yet we need to find a path for technology as well that tries to enforce the right kind of balance. It's a troubling issue. It does keep me awake at night. It's extremely difficult to deal with these larger issues, but we each do what we can. Let me, in the remaining minutes, just breeze through a little bit about governance structure. I mean, maybe my goal should be just to point out the complexity of this. The book has 15 recommendations, and the structure of those recommendations is in 4 categories. There are technical recommendations of software engineering teams of how they build systems. And I've mentioned audit trails and workflows, verification and bias testing, explainable user interfaces. All those are technical things for which the teams of 5 to 15 software engineers might work and improve their job. Now, within larger organizations, the construction of a safety culture, where a large organization might have 100 software engineering teams, and developing a culture of safety to monitor performance and to assess and evaluate how well things are going, is really a very powerful force. I would say air traffic control is the best example of a successful safety culture. Medical may be less effective, but still safety cultures in medical institutions are generally, from what I've seen and heard from others, are pretty good. And this has to do with the management strategies I listed: leadership commitment, hiring and training of people to focus on safety, reporting failures and near misses. The literature is quite interesting that the reporting of near misses is extremely valuable in air control. If something goes wrong, if there's a rattle in the engine, if the engine gets a little high temperature for a few minutes, you don't want to ignore that. You want to report that. And tracking the things that go wrong is extremely important. The flight data recorders not only capture what goes wrong, but they capture what goes right. They capture what crews did to prevent a failure from happening. And so I'm a very, strong advocate of audit trails for AI devices. It's an extended section in the book. You could take a look at it. Internal reviews and then industry standards. So that's the safety culture argument. Actually, the National Academy's workshops I'm running have a lot to do with safety culture. It's a big topic, and understanding how that works, how to implement, is a larger organizational thing. And our tendency to look at technical issues only, rather than these larger organizational or socio-technical concerns, is changing. And so we're getting a more balanced view, which will bring in policymakers, business leaders, and so on. The third level of industry level, for every industry that has large companies, there may be dozens of large companies. And so the idea of external reviews by way of independent oversight, auditing firms, I mentioned insurance companies, NGOs, civil society, and professional societies all have a role to play. They are stepping forward to do this. And then the outer oval is the government regulation strategy. These are discussed at length in the book, and the original article remains online. I think I'll just breeze through these and come to a summary, and we'll close up and take any further questions. I hope the takeaway message is this screen. I'm happy to send the slides to Sami, who share with you if that would be helpful. I'll do that after this talk. I think remembering the language we use, the metaphors we choose, guide our choices in strong ways. I may not have the right terminology yet. You have better words to use, whether to say superpowers or super tools is, another discussion. But it's interesting to try to creatively find new language, which will give us a new way of thinking. We took a very brief look at ChatGPT and Gemini. I encourage you to do more on your own. Take a look at those, give them a try. They are impressive, and find your creative ways of putting them to work in your work. There's really something there, but be careful. Remember, that's the dual message. They're powerful, so use them. They're flawed, so be careful. You are responsible for what you do. People are very special. That's my takeaway message. People are very special. Briefly about governance structures, and that's it. I just close by, the book's framework was, on rather high-minded ideas of design to support human values, human rights, social justice, individual dignity, equality, etc. Individual goals were self-efficacy, creativity, responsibility, and social connections. And then the design aspirations were organized this way: reliable, safe, and trustworthy. At every point, you should remember there are malicious actors and therefore threats out there, and bias and flawed software are the kind of threat landscape as the discussion goes. At the same time, remember there are many stakeholders. It's not just the users. We find it, imbalance these days. Researchers in the AI world and developers get to have more attention. Their words are more important, but they don't have the whole picture. They're narrowly focused on the technology rather than the socio-technical and the political issues. And so at least these 5, the book lists 25 stakeholders, but this slide just has a few of them on here. So remember, there are larger frameworks to think about in managing systems. The book is out there. I'm pleased. My favorite review comment was, it's one of the most important AI books in the last few years. I'm known in the HcAI world and user experience design, but this reviewer made me happy because it characterized it as an important AI book. And Forbes magazine, a business magazine, made it, pointed out its value for managers to direct AI development. I'm pleased that when the book came out, or the following year, last year, it won the category award for computing and information science. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of books were published, but I'm pleased that it was recognized for it. The book is also, even the cover art required a lot of thinking. There are no robots in this cover. It's all about people. And that's the way I want you to think about technology. It's all about how you amplify, augment, enhance, and empower people. Okay? So I'll just close. The Google group is here. You're welcome to join in. We have a website with resources, materials, and list of labs. My Maryland website is over here. I used to have a Twitter account here, but I'm no longer a fan of Twitter, so that's come off the list. And discount code for Oxford will get you. It's a reasonably priced book, and so that's good news. And I hope some of you will take a look at it for its references and for the ideas and the examples of existing systems that have worked out. So that's, I think that's the story here. There's lots of work to be done. So we need every one of you to join in and make the world a better place by the designs and technologies you develop, build, maintain, and deliver to other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, so Ben, there is a question from the audience.
Yeah.
Hi, it's so good to see you. I heard about you from one of my professor, Dr. Larry Metzger. It's really great to see you here. One of my question is regarding training future generation in human-centered AI or human-centered design. I have seen University of Virginia, George Washington University in data science curriculum, we do not really have a specific course focusing on human-centered design or human-centered AI, but it's such a important and needed topic right now. So what will be your suggestion if I would like to develop a course on that? Your book is great, of course, but I would love a little bit more on what will be your suggestion on that.
Yes, I hope you'll follow the book. Yes, wonderful if you develop a course on that topic. On the website, the HcAI.site website, we have links to, I don't know, maybe 20 different courses that cover some of these issues. Some of them are explicitly called human-centered AI, some are called responsible AI or ethical AI. So there's lots of different variations on the theme, and every person like you who steps forward and teaches another 25 people about these ideas is making a valuable contribution. So please do it. Be creative on your own, but build on what other people have done.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Oh, looking good. Okay. Ben, thank you so much again. It's been a great pleasure. And we also have a group of digital health master students who are just finishing next term. So your book will be a good resource, and I'm sure they'll venture out to the world with this knowledge. And I'll be sharing all the materials. So the teams will come up with the design stories. We'll have them on the website, and I will share all these information with you as well.
Great.
And
I will send you the slides, and you're welcome to share them with the group.
Yep, that's great. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll be in touch, and thank you for accommodating us with within your time and everything. So thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Take care. Good wishes.